Hello, my name is Ian Beabout, and welcome to my YouTube channel. So today, I thought I would do a hopefully brief video talking about the new release from XTC and Steven Wilson. This is the Skylarking 2024 Dolby Atmos edition. This is a CD/Blu-ray set and is the latest in a series of multi-channel Steven Wilson remixes. Hopefully, in this review, I'll be able to explain to you why I think this is worth picking up, but also why I feel like you shouldn't get rid of your older version if you still have the 2016 version. So we have a couple of mixes of the album. Of course, the 2024 Dolby Atmos mix, which is the main draw of this set. But interestingly, we also have the 2024 Dolby Atmos instrumental mixes, which I believe this is the first time that has happened on any release. Usually when instrumental mixes are included, they're in stereo only. So that is a cool little extra reason to get this. Also, you do have the original 2016 5.1 mixes, as well as the 2016 stereo and instrumental mixes, which are presented in stereo. In addition to that, you also have the original album mixes and the 2010 corrected polarity version on the Blu-ray. What's missing is the demos. The original 2016 version had extensive demos from both Andy Partridge and Colin Moulding, and I think it's a real shame that they weren't included here. Also, the 2016 version included the videos from the album, so for songs like Grass and Dear God, and those aren't present here. Lastly, Andy Partridge's excellent liner notes were not reprinted for this edition, which I think is a real shame. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I sold my 2016 edition and I'm having seller's remorse. It kind of set me up for disappointment right off the bat when I realized those things weren't included. So I wanted to make sure you were aware of that up front. This isn't a one-to-one exact upgrade with Dolby Atmos included. They've obviously kicked off some of those extras from the 2016 version to make room for extra mixes. Yeah, I don't like this. I think this is a shame. And I really think we could have lost, I don't know, maybe the 2016 stereo and instrumental mixes to keep those demos. I don't really need those since they're on the CD, or at least the stereo mixes are on the CD. And I don't really need the instrumental mixes duplicated either. So I feel like that was an oversight. Somebody made an error. I'm also not crazy about the change in packaging. All the previous editions were in a slipcover, kind of similar to the King Crimson 5.1 series. And this takes us to a mini LP sleeve. Now, this is closer to the design of, say, the Yes remixes, which came out over 10 years ago now. So it's like a gatefold sleeve here. And you have a booklet, which is lyrics only. Yeah, so it reproduces the pictures from the original version, but you know, obviously it's missing the liner notes. So if you're like me and you're interested in how this album was put together, you don't get that here. I just think that's a serious issue for me. And it almost hurts my opinion on this release, which is a shame. Okay, so now that I've gotten kind of the disclaimers out of the way, I would like to talk briefly about the Dolby Atmos mix. So I had a chance to listen to it a couple times. My immediate thought, especially on songs like Summer's Cauldron, was that the drums are much more prominent in the mix. There's much more heft to them than the 2016 mix. I also noticed that some of the vocals are maybe a little bit lower in the mix. Also, it seems to me like this mix, and I mean the new one, the Dolby Atmos mix, is much more glued together than the 5.1. And I know that that's an issue for some people with 5.1. They say that it doesn't sound as glued together as stereo. It's too discrete, too transparent. Well, I'm happy to report, especially in the backing vocals department, things are much closer together. I really do think this is a better overall mix than the 2016. And I did take an opportunity to compare it directly, which is something that this package does allow you to do. It allows you to shift seamlessly between the old multi-channel mix and the new. And my impression of the old mix is that it's much louder, it's much more shrill sounding, and potentially even more compressed to my ears, whereas this new mix sounds very analog to me. It sounds very warm and inviting, but you don't lose any clarity. You really can pick out individual parts. Some of the best stuff for me in the Atmos format, it comes in the second half of the album, starting with songs like Another Satellite, which are absolutely ethereal and gorgeous. And you can hear different vocal effects trailing around the room. Another song that I wanted to point out is The Man Who Sailed Around His Soul, which uses excellent, which takes advantage of the height speakers and backing speakers to great effect. And I don't have speakers in my ceiling. They're just reflecting off of the ceiling. But when I closed my eyes, it did sound like some of the vocal effects and stuff were coming from above. So spatially, it does really take advantage of the format. And there's some other things like on Mermaid Smiled, I noticed that Colin Moulding's bass guitar is much higher in the mix. I don't have a problem with this because Colin Moulding is a severely underrated bass player. And I like hearing his parts brought out. There's also some moments where I definitely hear more of Dave Gregory's guitar. And I think it is probably The Man Who Sailed Around His Soul that I'm thinking of. I also thought I'd mention that the extra tracks, which are Extrovert, Let's Make a Den, Little Lighthouse, and The Troubles, I feel like these songs may actually benefit from the Atmos upgrade more than the actual album does. And something like Extrovert, there's some sort of Fairlight horns, some samples in that track that almost put me in the mind of Aretha Franklin's Respect in a way. And some mixes I've heard, including the 5.1 mixes, those horns were really up front. And I noticed that in the Atmos mix, they're more texture. And Steven Wilson has brought the guitars up to the forefront, and he's brought a lot of the trumpet work in that track. A lot of that's coming out of the height speakers, so it really does have more prominence in the mix. I also think Let's Make a Den is so much better on the new mix. You can hear so much more detail in it, backing vocals coming in. Little Lighthouse, that's one of my favorite tracks. I was a little bit disappointed in it because it seemed like the Atmos mix made it more obvious that they didn't use a live drummer on that track. It sounds like it's a drum machine or something. And it really does. It's really obvious to me. It kind of holds back the power of the track for me a little bit, but it's still a great version. They would, of course, re-record that for the Dukes of Stratosphere's album, Sonic Sunspot. My recommendation is that if you have Dolby Atmos technology and you love this album, you definitely should pick it up. Right now, it's very hard to get a hold of in the States, but in my description, I'm going to leave a link where you can purchase it stateside from Wayside Music, which is where I picked it up. And it's relatively inexpensive, I think. So yeah, I do recommend this if you are Atmos capable. If you're 5.1 capable, I'm not sure how well the Atmos mix is going to translate to 5.1. Just don't be like me. Don't sell your old copy. Hold on to it. I really think that going forward, if they do decide to go back and do, say, Drums and Wires in Atmos or Black Sea, they really do need to try to make sure that all of the extras from the previous version are ported over. Otherwise, you end up with 2 copies, which is something I'm not crazy about. I don't like having multiple copies of the same album if I can help it. So that's my only caveat, is don't sell your old version. Hang on to it. Don't be like me and make that mistake. But otherwise, it gets high marks for me. I'm looking forward to listening to it more. It's one of my favorite albums. So I'm sure that there's lots yet to discover, lots of details to enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'm hoping to do more Atmos reviews. King Crimson's Red is coming very soon, so that'll be next. Thank you for joining me, and we'll talk real soon. Bye-bye.